What if there was a podcast where one NFL legend talked about football? What about two NFL legends, huh? What about three? This is Wideout's World, where the gridiron comes alive. NFL legends Fred Barnett, Irving Fryar, and Michael Timpson. Three NFL legends. Breaking down the game from the ultimate insider perspective. Game recaps, upcoming previews, and exclusive analysis straight from the minds of those who've been in the trenches. Yes. Wideout's World. Let's do it.
Are you ready for some football?
We're ready for some football, baby.
Yo. I got a song for y'all. Check this out. Wake up, everybody. No more sleeping in bed. I am your host tonight, and my name is Fred. Let me stop. I'm your host, Fred Barnett.
You're just telling everybody how old you are. That's all.
I'm your host, Fred Barnett, and I know it's good. I know it's good.
How long did it take you to come up with
that?
that?
I'm that all day. You know what? I just came up with it. I promise you.
No, you did.
I promise you. I'm your host, Fred Barnett, and I promise I did. And I am with the Irving Fryar and the Michael Timpson. Michael and I are in pretty decent weather. Irving is in the refrigerator. So
it's past the refrigerator. It's a freezer.
It's a freezer. And Irving, by the way, guys, your eyes are not playing tricks on you. Irving did not receive the email to wear red tonight. So, and that's okay. We still let him be on
That's, you know what?
Look at Mike. Look at it.
Wait a minute. No. I got one for you. See, I just came up with this. Since you just came up with that, I just came up with this. That's because some of us are in the black and some of us are in the red.
Well, y'all stick to y'all day job.
Some of us are in the black. Some of us are in the red.
The only red I'm in is in this. All right,
you in the red. You in the red. I'm in the black. That's all. You in the red. I'm in the black. Don't get mad.
I get it. Oh, trust me, I ain't mad. Not at all. I don't get mad.
Listen, Billy Bell and Eddie Casper are two most faithful supporters are watching right now. They said, "What's up, fellas?" Billy Bell and Eddie Casper. Already on. Mm-hmm.
Already, man. So we're gonna jump into it. Let me get the topics out. We're gonna do the in the news. We're gonna do our wide receiver of the year for all three of us. I'm quite sure we probably have three different ones. We're gonna go over these past playoff games, and my question to each one of you guys will be: were you surprised or not? And tell me why. And then we're gonna bring on the Richard Melton, who is a big Bills fan, and we promised him if the Bills won that he would come on. So he's going to come on a little later, and of course we're going to talk about the games this weekend. But before we do that, Mike,
who is that?
We have some. We have some.
The baby in the background. He don't
we
hear
have
it. The baby.
We have some.
Who's that, Fred? Who's that, Fred?
We have some. My 8-year-old Lexington.
Hush up.
We have some. We have some scores that we need to go over, don't we?
Sure thing.
Don't we have some scores that we need?
Well, thank you for asking. By the way, here it is. It's going to be the scores for tonight. Okay. You did pretty good, Fred. Last week you were 3-1, and Irvin and I were 2-2. Right now you are in the lead, Fred. 41 games and 20 losses. And I am Irvin. Let me tell the rest. Irvin's in second place with 38 wins and 23 losses. I'm bringing up the rear in style. 37 wins and 24 losses. So yeah, you did good. 3 wins last week, and
I once was lost, but now I'm winning.
You get a chance to brag.
Was blind, but now I watch it. See. All right, let's go. All right, let's go. Let's go. I know we got some news this week. We have to have some news this week.
Gennaro Jackson's in the house. Richard Melton's in the house. Just shouting them out.
Richard Melton. We'll talk to you a little later, Rich. Mike, give us some news, brother.
Okay. So my news for this week is obviously we're going to talk about the coaches, the new coaches that are there. Before we get to that, have you guys heard this about with Mahomes and the referees? Okay. So here's my take. So he's taking a lot of flack because they feel there's this double standard when they call the games with Mahomes and Kansas City. So I want to know whether you guys agree with it. I do. I think that there's some bias. I think they've taken the fact that obviously they're protecting the quarterback, but they're also protecting the franchise of the league being Mahomes.
Yeah.
And so I do think that they call games accordingly and he gets the benefit. I mean, he flops, they barely touch him, he gets calls. So I just thought that was interesting in contrast to Jared Goff. Remember when he threw that pick and he was running down the sideline, he got blasted.
He should have got out of the way.
They jacked him up. They didn't call that. Which, by the way, if you throw a pick, you're no longer a quarterback.
Right.
You're no longer a quarterback. But the commentators were saying they should have called that. I'm like, no, they shouldn't.
No,
they shouldn't.
Get your behind out the way.
But they probably would have called it on Mahomes though if Mahomes had got jacked.
There you go. So I just think that's interesting because I do believe that is happening and it has happened. A la Brady. Now you're talking Mahomes. So
Mike, it's just to your point, Mike. It was obvious that one particular play that they called. They said the interpretation of the call was that they hit him in his head, but the two defenders hit each other. When they showed the replay, they never touched Patrick Mahomes, and they stayed with the call. So, I think there is somewhat of a bias or prejudice when it comes to certain quarterbacks, and he's one of those quarterbacks on that list where he gets the benefit of the doubt, and there are penalties that are called in his favor.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, and I think we're because we played this game and we're saying it and fans are saying it. I think it's very obvious, and it's gotten to the point to where it's become a problem and it's become a topic of conversation. If it's a topic of conversation, I think it's very obvious at this point that he's kind of getting favorable calls, and I think it's unfortunate because what happens is that teaches the player to play into the call. So whenever someone is close to him, he starts to flop because he knows there's a possibility that he's going to get a call. So which I think at that point you start to see a lot of flops. So and somebody may mention, and I've seen so many memes and posts and whatever about his relationship with the referees, but somebody mentioned earlier this week, as a matter of fact, it was after the. Of course, after the Houston game, there could be a possible chance that 15-yard penalties could possibly be reviewed. And Irv, you may mention, of course, that that particular play when the two defenders totally missed him, didn't even touch him, and they hit heads, and they didn't touch him at all. And of course, they call a penalty. That could be a situation if that was reviewed. That would be reversed. So, I actually hope that is the case. And, it's unfortunate to see, I think now, how skewered the calls are going. When we played, football was football, technical, and I hate to say this, but it's getting really soft. It's getting really soft. And I can remember the defense, when I first came to the league playing with the Eagles, they sent a message to the quarterback. And even when the quarterback released the ball, boom, he got pushed down. And once he got pushed down, he was slammed. He could be slammed. That let him know that they are coming after him. So today it's far fetched that you see a guy, a defensive lineman or a linebacker or whatever, touch a quarterback and not get penalized for it. It's unfortunate.
Russell Gold is in the house. What's going on, Russell?
Russell Gold.
We said welcome to everyone. I am Black Mal. What's going on? Holly,
Who's
go
that?
lightly in the house. My mom said, oh, Mom, no, you can't. My mom said, wow, Fred can sing.
I love it. I love it. I love
Lord
it.
have mercy. Hi,
So,
Mama.
hey, what about
Mama.
the coaches? What about the new coaches, guys? That's interesting. So,
Is that what's
Glenn,
your news, Mike? We need your news. Oh, go ahead.
That's
Go ahead. I'm
news.
sorry.
I'm giving you news.
Okay.
You wanted me to run
Shoot
down,
me.
or you want me to stop? You got something?
No, run
You're
it
the
down,
host.
Mike.
No.
You're the
Go, go,
host.
go, 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 go.
You sure?
Go.
Irv?
Oh,
Gio.
yeah, good.
Gio.
Aaron
No,
Glenn.
I'm Gio. Oh.
Aaron Glenn. What do you think about him being the Jets' new coach? Now, here's my take on it. My 2-minute take. 4 years as DC and Detroit, as we know. Scout, coach. He's paid his dues. I'm a little concerned. Number one, he's in New York. New York don't play. You know, if you can make it in New York, you can make it anywhere. But if you don't, you out
Right.
quick.
But you
So
projected
I just
last
hope
week
it's not
that he might be there, Mike, because he played there.
right.
Yeah.
I got lucky on that one. Every now and then, clock is at 12 o'clock. But here's the thing. My first order of business, I got to get rid of Aaron Rodgers. He
Of
needs
course.
to cut bait. He needs to get rid of that and start fresh. He doesn't need him in there undermining him because he's been there and all that kind of stuff. He need a fresh slate. And for me, I'm going to try and get Cam Ward. That's my pick for quarterback. I'm going to try and move up and get Cam Ward.
Right. Well, you start, like you said, you're starting fresh. He's starting fresh. And, to keep Aaron Rodgers there, he's just setting himself up to fail. Because Aaron's not going to, even if he keeps him, he's not going to be there another year or two. And what is the purpose in keeping him there? So, get rid of him.
Yeah, I think Aaron Rodgers, with his personality and who he is and him being established in the league right now, he can't take a step back. Could be wrong, But I can't see him taking a step back and saying, yes, coach, to Aaron Glenn. And I think if I was Aaron Glenn, I would sit down with on the general manager and say, hey, look, would love to be here, but here is what I need to happen. And I think inevitably he will have to spell out to them what he wants to happen instead of him getting fired and then him making decisions about things. I just don't think that they're in that position to be surprised by a decision that Coach Glenn would make after he's there. So I think that, and I definitely agree with you, Mike. Aaron is a great player. I think he's a Hall of Fame guy. But I think it's just started to bleed into some arrogantness. Some personality that's not necessarily humble. I think I mentioned this to you guys early in the season where one of the Jets got hurt and he had to get carted off, and the entire team was around that player, and Aaron was sitting at the other side of the bench by himself. I mean, even that picture there lets you know who he is as a player and as a teammate. And it's just unfortunate for somebody to have that much talent and that much influence, because he's been successful, and he could push that positive influence on these young guys and even on guys that he played with, started out with, and he's not doing it. He's just kind of separating himself and at the same time too putting himself in a position to make decisions. So I think it's unfortunate. Hopefully Aaron Glenn will have that figured out. So Irv, talk to me about some news, brother.
Well, mine kind of plays on what Mike brought up with the coaches. Last week, the Ravens offensive coordinator, Todd Monken, he had an interview with the Bears to be their possible head coach. And that was on Friday before the conference game. The Bills offensive coordinator, Joe Brady, he had an interview with the Bears and with the Saints on Friday, 2 days before the conference game. The conference round, I should say. And then the Eagles offensive coordinator, Kellen Moore, he had 2 interviews, Dallas and the Jaguars on Friday. Then he had another interview on Saturday. Don't know what that team was. They did not disclose what that team was. That was Friday and the day before the division game. And to me,
why would you do that? Yeah.
Why would you do that? Now, to Aaron Glenn's credit, shout him out. He had they were requesting interviews for him, but he declined, and he didn't interview before the games. First of all, I think it's out of order that the way they do or they set up the timing of these interviews for the coaches is out of order, where they can be interviewed during the playoffs. First of all, most of the coaches who are being interviewed or being sought after are coaches who are on teams or coaching teams that are in the playoffs. Why? Because their teams are doing the best. And it takes away, you can't tell me, you cannot tell me. And when you look at the Lions lost. I mean, you look at the Eagles, there were some questionable calls in there during the game where it's like, okay, what's going on? You cannot tell me as a human being, I'm an offensive coordinator, I'm a defensive coordinator, I'm a coach in the NFL, that as a coach in the NFL, I'm not excited about being a head coach. All the coaches in the NFL, for the most part, would love to be a head coach of a team in the NFL. The interviews,
but Irv, you don't have a choice. I mean,
well, wait, let me finish.
You take them.
Let me finish. Let me finish.
Yeah,
The interviews can be no longer than 3 hours. They're virtual interviews. Okay, so Kellen Moore possibly had 9 hours of interviews between Friday and Saturday, the day before the divisional round, and not being focused on the task at hand with the Eagles. You can't tell me he didn't have to take some time to prepare,
of course,
for the interviews. Okay, Lord knows how much time that took. And then afterwards, or even before, once he knew the interviews were coming, you can't tell me that that's not on his mind. You can't tell me that. I've got the opportunity to be a head coach. That's going to be on my mind half the time. So now I'm not thinking about what I'm supposed to be doing with the team I'm currently coaching. I'm thinking about the possibility of next year and being a head coach. That's just human. That's human. I believe the league, and I believe people do it, or the coaches do it, and the teams do it, try to get a head start, try to gain an advantage when it comes to getting the coach that they want. But it needs to be changed. Peter King wrote an article a couple of years ago saying that the coaching carousel needs to start after the Super Bowl. And that's not too late. That gives you plenty of time, because the Super Bowl's played early February. The season doesn't start until after Labor Day, right? So you just move back free agency a little bit, and you move the draft back a little bit. And now here's the incentive for it. Instead of the coaching carousel being a secondary story during the playoffs, now you have time when people can focus on it, sports media can focus on it, and it's the top story, and that's what people are talking about right after the season's over, right after the Super Bowl.
Mike, what's your thoughts on that, Mike?
I just don't think that that's going to happen. I mean, your points
no,
are
it's
valid.
not. No. I'm not saying it's going to happen.
Let me say this, Mike. What do you think should happen, Mike? That's the question.
Well, I think very simply that they continue to do what they're going to do, because these owners see there's a void in the head coaching seat, and they got to get people in there to get prepared for the draft, the whole 9 yards. So they're not going to do it any different, because what they're going to do, they're going to go behind closed doors and have those conversations. It's going to happen. I mean, you can't.
I see what you're saying.
I see your point, Irv. I just don't think there's any way you can police that. That's all.
Well, Mike, they're going behind doors, and they're doing it now. Jonathan Gannon 2 years ago got caught talking to a team while he was on his way to the Super Bowl and wasn't supposed to be talking to a team. That's why after they lost the Super Bowl, he wasn't allowed to get on the plane and fly back to Philly with the team. So there's already shenanigans going on behind the scenes. They're already doing that. They're going to do that anyway. But before it's officially before it's officially revealed to the public and to the sports media, it needs to be done in a way where people can focus on that, and it doesn't take away from the attention that coaches currently have to pay to, put into what they're doing in the current time with their team.
Irv, I think this is the sticking point, and Mike, you made an interesting point in that they want to get the coaches in before the draft. So
move it back.
Well, that
you got time.
would
move
help.
it back.
That would help.
Yeah, you move it
I
back.
think with say move it back one more time. I'm gonna punch this.
Move it back. You move it back.
But I get
Back that
both
thing up.
sides,
Back
and
that thing up.
but at the same time, Irv, I'm about to cut you off.
You can't cut me
But
off.
I know. I'm about to make you cut yourself off. But I definitely see where both sides come from, because when you're concentrating on trying to get your team to the Super Bowl,
Supposedly.
and that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 hours that could be dedicated to you coming up with a game plan or looking over a defense or creating, some plays that work against your upcoming opponent, you're sitting down with a team that you're probably going to be playing against, that the team you're with probably going to be playing against. So it doesn't make sense. But at the same time, too, Mike, I hear your point in that
you got free
you
agency.
need to get people established
Yeah,
before
you got
the
too much
draft
to do, man.
to
You gotta get
make
coaches,
and
free
the
agency.
and
It's too much to do.
and the last thing you want to do is try to draft players before you get a coach. You want that head coach to do that. You want the head coach to do that. So all right, I'm gonna bleed into my end of news. We got the first three picks, which are the Titans, the Browns, and the Giants. And the Titans have come out this week and said that they are interested in trading their first pick. Now, right now, the Titans have the first pick and they have the 35th pick in the first round. And the new GM, Mike Brungazi, mentioned that said that draft picks are the biggest currency that we have. And if we can trade back and collect more players, we're willing to do that. I think that's interesting because I think, of course, they're alerting all the teams that want to move up, like a la Dallas, to get Shador Sanders and bring Dion on. I think Mike and we kind of agreed on that. But Irv, you don't think Dion will possibly go to Dallas? But it's going to be interesting to see what the Titans can get and who the Titans will hear from and who could possibly move up to that number one pick. And of course, the thought from the GM there and their president is more players to make an impact on their season, the better, more so than just a top player. So they're looking at volume of decent players. So I thought that was very interesting, and it'll be interesting to see, as I mentioned, who could possibly, entertain, that first pick and what they're willing to give up. And of course I was thinking about Dallas and I was like, wow, what exactly would they give up for that first pick? Maybe 2 or 3 picks or maybe a player and a pick or a second round pick or what have you. But it'd be interesting to see that. Any thoughts on, or are we rolling along?
Billy Bell said the Giants are giving their first pick away. He heard that the Giants are
Giving it away?
Yeah, they're going to trade it away.
Trading it?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Trading it away. Okay. All right. Well, let's roll right into our wide receiver of the year. Irv, I think we probably know who yours is, but no, yeah, actually we don't. I don't know who's your wide receiver of the year.
We didn't do it. We just
no, we didn't do it.
Yeah, we didn't do it. My for this year, for the regular season, my wide receiver of the year is a rookie, Malik Neighbors from the Giants. 15 games, 109 receptions, 1,204 yards, 7 touchdowns. I think that's absolutely, given the state of the Giants, given the fact that he played with Daniel Jones and they got rid of Daniel Jones and Drew Lock and then Tommy DeVito, here's a rookie who comes into the league into an unstable environment, an unstable team. Things are not, they just did not play well. They weren't winning. Things were always in a tizzy for them. And he breaks the record that Puka Nacua set last year as a rookie. Puka Nacua had 105 catches last year, and he set the rookie reception record for the NFL. And here comes Malik Neighbors, and we know Puka Nacua had a great quarterback, great team. Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp was on the other side of him to take some pressure off of him. So Puka had some help. Here's a guy who had no other. There's no other light on that team to help take some of the pressure off of him, to allow him to not just develop but to play better and to put up numbers. And he 109 catches. That's really unheard of. I never even came close to 109 catches in my career in one season. So he's my Malik Neighbors, and he's a beast. 6 foot, 200 pounds.
Yeah.
He plays big. Makes the big catches, takes the hits, and he's a tough kid. And he's got the right mentality. He's going to be around for a long time. I don't think this will be his best year. I'm sure he'll catch more than 100 balls in the coming years and continue to be a light on the Giants team if he doesn't get traded somewhere else. But Malik Neighbors is my receiver of the year.
Yeah, if he don't get traded to the Eagles next year, because they can't, because the Giants seem to let their players go. Mike, I'm gonna go with my wide receiver of the year. This cat's going on to his his 5th year. He had 430. He has actually 430 receptions, 4,800 yards, 33 touchdowns. He has had over the past 3 years 1,000 yards. His first year he had a little bit over 900 yards. Ahmad St. Brown. This year he had 115 catches to a little over 1,200 yards, 12 TDs. He's the type of guy, and I think we talked a little bit about him earlier. This guy, it's almost like playing a video game. He's just nonstop. He's just battery powered. He's just, every time I watch him play, it's just exciting to see him, run his route, get open. He's a tough kid. He's not that big. As I mentioned, he's 6 foot, 202 pounds. He's very doable. And it just seems to be open every time. Of course, he has a loss against the Commanders. He had 8 receptions, 137 yards, no touchdowns. But here's a guy that I think is really going to be one of those guys in the league once it's said and done, that he'll probably have a gold jacket on. He was just a few yards his first season from having 1,000 yards a season, thus far, and he's going into his 5th season. So he's my wide receiver of the year. What about you, Mike Timpson?
All righty. I'm going to go with Mr. Consistency, and that would be Mike Evans from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. 74 catches. He got over 1,000 yards again. This is the 11th consecutive year that he's done that, tying Jerry Rice on the all-time list. 11 touchdowns. He just gets it done. He shows up week after week. You don't hear no muss, no fuss. You don't hear him complaining. You don't hear him saying anything. He just comes to work. Like we used to call, bring your lunch pail to work, and that's just how he is. So that's my pick.
He's kind of reminds you, Mike, about the old school receivers. When I see him and watch him play and just watch how he carries himself, it reminds me of back in the day when we played. He would be the type of receiver that could play during that time and fit in well with that era of football.
Yeah, he blocks out all the noise. You don't see him You don't see him dancing in the end zone. You don't see him. You don't see him shooting fingers.
Hand the ball to the ref.
Everybody got to tell him now. Like they don't have markers over there. Everybody got to tell them it's first down. Then they start shooting. They don't went to the finger. Then they start shooting. So
they start. And now they're getting fined. What's interesting, even for our fans that's listening, you talk about 3 guys here who played in the league, and I think my guy was 4th overall in terms of numbers and statistics. And it lets you know that we don't necessarily look at statistics, but we look at the overall play of the wide receiver and really understanding what they bring to the table. And sometimes wide receivers, a good wide receiver, a la Malik Neighbors, which played with a bad team. Here's a guy, if he was with, say if he was with Detroit, this guy probably have 120 receptions, probably close to 2,000 yards. So we see that talent, even if these guys are playing with teams that are not necessarily in the playoff, not Super Bowl contenders or what have you. But we understand the talent or the level of talent that these guys have, although they're not with teams that are really doing well in the league. So that's pretty good stuff. So we
So
are. Go ahead.
Richard Melton said, "Wow, none of y'all chose Jamar Chase. Thought y'all was about the numbers. It's not always all about
No,
the numbers.
yeah,
It's not always about the numbers.
not always.
James Hicks is in the house. What's going on, Mr. Hicks? James Hicks, y'all, we got to pray for him, his family. He's out there in California. Those fires, it's been crazy out there. He's a follower and supporter of us. So, brother, we're going to lift you up in prayer. We're keeping our eyes gauged at the prize, and hoping the best for you, brother. Hoping the best for you. But stay engaged, Hicks. Don't go nowhere.
Stay engaged. All right, we are going to bleed into this last week's games. We had Houston against KC, Washington at Detroit, Philly and LA, Buffalo and Baltimore. Now, I have a question. Were we surprised or not with the outcome? Mike, let's hear from you. Houston at KC, were you surprised with the loss 14, KC winning 23-14?
Oh, I was very surprised. I mean, Houston played well. I mean, we all picked Kansas based on the fact that they have been there, done that, and Houston being the new kid on the block, so to speak. But they played well. I mean, you got to give credit where credit is due. They played very well. But you can't give up 8 sacks and think you're going to win the game. I mean, they sacked Stroud 8 times. I mean, and here's the thing that I thought about. He needed another wide receiver because he kept looking at Nico Collins and they were doubling Nico and he had nobody else to throw to. And that's why I think contributed a lot to those 8 sacks. But in contrast, D-Hop, where's D-Hop for Kansas City? He had no reception, none. And that was surprising to me. But, Kansas City, like we thought, they'll find a way to do it. And they won the game, but that was a big surprise for me. But hats off to Houston. 2 years in a row, they've gotten to the playoffs. Young team. I just look for them to get better and better every year.
Surprise or not?
You want me to talk about my surprise, or you want me to talk about that particular game?
Were you surprised at the outcome of the game or not?
No, I wasn't surprised at the outcome of the game. I thought that Kansas City would win the game. I believe I picked Kansas City. I think I did, didn't I, Mike? I picked Kansas City. I believe, based on the Kansas City game, based on the Lions game, those were the 2 number 1 seeds in the AFC and the NFC, and they both had a bye week. It looked to me that Kansas City took some time to get going, particularly offensively. And it looked like Detroit was off kilter at the beginning of the game. I believe that had something to do with...
You said Detroit, Irv. You said Detroit. You meant Houston. You said Detroit.
No.
I think he means Detroit.
I meant Detroit
He's talking
because
about
they
Detroit.
both had a bye. Kansas City and Detroit had a bye. And I believe in today's game, I think that the bye has a lot to do with how teams, stumble and fumble when they come off a bye, because I don't think they do enough. They don't do enough as it is during the week in terms of working full speed, in terms of working with pads on if necessary. I think they really take that time off and don't do a whole lot. Now they come into Detroit and Kansas City. And Kansas City won, but Detroit lost. But then now they come into a playoff game where they've had a week off, but the team they're playing has already played a playoff game and won. So the speed, it takes them a minute, because now it's the playoffs. It's not the regular season thing. The intensity has increased. The speed has increased. The want to, the will, all of that's gotten more intense. And now here they are playing against a team that's already won a playoff game. They've already been in the new speed. They've already upped their game. And it takes them a minute to get going. I saw that with Kansas City, but Kansas City was able to overcome it and still win the game. But I think Detroit never caught up. They never got back to speed. They never got back on track like they were during the regular season when they were just running through everybody.
Rolling through her. What you got, Mike?
You know what's interesting about that is I'm going to give you a coach that, and you guys may have experienced this when the playoffs. We went to the playoffs when I was with New England, and Bill Parcells was the coach. And so that time before that game, we practiced like it was training camp. And one of the reasons is because he doesn't want that lag to get in there.
Right.
And so you can have some momentum going into the playoffs. And I think when you have those coaches that approach that time off, you got to approach it that way. So that's a great point that you make. But I think there's certain coaches that will approach it and make that week hard. So therefore you still stay tuned up and tuned in so you don't have a drop off in production.
Yeah.
So
and Andy Reid is somewhat of an old school coach. He has a great record the week after the bye. He has a winning record in his history in coaching the week after the bye, because I believe he treats it a little bit different than the majority of the teams or majority of the coaches in the league. I really believe, because man, when I've gone to several practices with the Eagles. First of all, you all know that they're not out there more than an hour and 15 minutes. And that's from the time they hit the field, stretching, all that stuff. They're out there an hour and 15 minutes. And from the practices that I've seen, they don't do a whole lot. There's not a whole lot that they do. Now, I'm not saying that they don't do what they need to do in the film room and in the weight room and all that kind of stuff. But when they're on the field, man, they're not doing a whole lot. So I can only imagine what happens during the bye week.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can imagine. But you know, when I looked at this game, I wanted to be surprised, but I wasn't. And I thought that Kansas City would score a lot more points because I felt like, okay, we're in the playoffs now. You know, and of course, I think we all three of us picked Kansas City. And it's like, hey, we're in the playoffs now, and we got all these weapons. Hollywood Brown had no receptions. As you mentioned, DeAndre Hopkins had no reception.
Right.
Juju Smith-Schuster had no receptions.
And
Xavier Worthy had 5.
And those are
Xavier
receivers.
Worthy
Those are
had 5.
ballers. Those names you're naming, those cats
those
are ballers,
those
man.
are ballers. So I wanted to be surprised, but of those numbers, then what I did is I looked back at Kansas City's season and I saw the same type of numbers. The same type of numbers, and inevitably, Kansas City is just managing their way through games to win games. Patrick Mahomes had 177 yards passing, so they're just managing their way through games. He had 1 touchdown. They're managing their way through games, and that defense, of course. I mean, Mike, you made mention that they had 8-9 sacks, which is very important, which is very essential, and of course, stopping their opponents from scoring points. But Kansas City is just managing their way through games, and that's really all it takes. And you know, because a win is a win. I mean, we sometimes we get so wrapped up in stats.
Fred froze.
Fred tell him
statistics.
He can't host. He came back.
Statistics.
You froze for a second there, Fred.
Stop.
You froze. Stop freezing. Don't shush me.
I'm not freezing.
You were froze.
Sometimes we get so wrapped up in statistics, and here's a time where the only thing that matters, and who had the phrase "win, baby, win"? Was that a no? Just win, just win. Let's just win. Somebody. But
Raiders.
I digress. Raiders. Oh, okay. Let's roll to our Washington. Yeah, Washington and Detroit. I know we got a surprise there. I'm going to say this. Let me start first. I felt that Washington was a good team. I also felt that Detroit would possibly give in at home, but I felt it would be against the Eagles. I have to admit that. But they gave in to Washington. I think Washington came out. They didn't play as well in the first few series. As a matter of fact, I think on the first series they had a fourth down that they just kind of fumbled the ball or just messed the play up. And from that point, I'm like, okay, Detroit is going to grab him by the throat and it's going to be over. But these cats came out and played lights out. And of course, Detroit scored 31 points. But with Washington scoring, of course, 45, they came away with the win. Now here's the situation that I think Washington's in. Y'all gonna get a kick out of this. I think Washington has gotten caught singing in the shower.
Whatever that
You
means.
know what that means? You know what that means?
I'm sure you're gonna tell us what it
So
means.
so periodically my wife will hear me singing in the shower and I come out of the shower and she said, "You can really sing. You shouldn't." I'm like, no, I shouldn't. No. So what I'm saying is that Washington has set the stage for themselves, of course, to be in the NFC Championship. And now they really have to sing. I'm gonna digress. I'm gonna digress on going any further. But I was surprised that Detroit didn't reload. Of course, your man Golf, who Irv loves to see in his uniform. I love to see the uniform. Your man Golf, he threw what, three or four interceptions? Three interceptions. He had a fumble, three interceptions and a fumble, and of course, one of the wide receivers threw an interception.
Yeah, just
But
5 turnovers.
I was totally surprised that Detroit just kind of laid an egg, and I think inevitably they were surprised because they were just distraught, and even their coach was in tears at the press conference.
Well, there was stuff going on in that game, particularly defensively for Detroit, where players, a lot of the players, particularly the linebackers and defensive backs, were out of position for whatever reason. Whatever the game plan was that Aaron Glenn put in, whatever the Commanders were doing was causing confusion for Detroit's secondary and the linebackers. And you cannot turn the ball over 5 times. There's some questionable calls. Why are they doing this throwback and letting the back throw the ball? And you don't throw the ball if the guy's covered. It was just really some stupid stuff being done by Detroit in that game. But like you said, Fred, I mean, who would have thought the Washington Commanders with a rookie quarterback who, there's probably not even 5 guys on Washington's team that could start for the Eagles. But they go into Detroit and beat Detroit. Well, yeah, they're going to have to sing now for real, and they're going to sing in public. But the singer, if I can play off your illustration, the singer,
it's going to be good. Yes, sir.
The lead singer is Jaden Daniels. He's the lead singer. He's got to play, and it's not that they say he's playing with borrowed money. With house money. The team's playing with house money. No, I think the team is just exceeding the expectations of people, of the fans. It's not they believe they can win. They believe they can play at the level that they're playing. There's not a team or time that any of us played a game in the NFL that we never thought that we could do it, that we could accomplish it, that we could win the game. There's not a time. It's not a time.
Let me ask you this, Irv. Let me ask you this real quick. Let me ask you this, and be honest with me now. Do you really believe that Washington will take Super Bowl or bust?
I believe now that they're playing in the NFC Championship game, yes, I believe they believe they can get to the Super Bowl.
I think that here's what I'm saying.
If I was on that team, if you were on that team, if we're sitting in the locker room talking about, y'all, we got to win the Super Bowl. We don't have we never know when we're going to get back there again. We never know when we're going to be in this position again. We have to win the Super Bowl.
I disagree with that. I think, and I honestly disagree. I think that if they lose Sunday, they would say, "Man, we had a good run." instead of like, we deserve to be in the Super. I think they know they don't belong in the Super Bowl. I honestly, that's just my opinion. I think that if they when they lose against the Eagles, in my opinion, that they would say, "Ah, man, we had a great run."
Fred,
And I think a
if
team
that were
like
the
the Eagles,
if that were the case, if
it's
that were the case, then they would have went and lost in Detroit.
no, they
You know what?
play. I think they're gonna. I think they're gonna go. They're gonna play. I don't think that's gonna. I don't think that's gonna determine how they play. Because I put it this way: if the Eagles, in my opinion, if the Eagles are the better team Sunday, if the Eagles come out and make mistake after mistake after mistake, and Washington wins that game, in which I think the only way they win the game is that the Eagles make mistake. Washington at that point is going to say, "Oh, let's take it up a notch. We definitely deserve to be there because we've continued to move ahead." I think they've done far beyond really what they have done, what they should have done on paper. Just my opinion. I think, and of course they're playing with vigor. They're playing lights out, which is commendable to them. But I think they are not as good as they show themselves to be. That's just my opinion.
They're not as good as teams on paper, but they
Yeah.
have a golden child, and that golden
Yes.
child is Jaden
Absolutely.
Daniels. And
let me say this:
he's playing better.
It took five turnovers. In my opinion, those turnovers don't happen with Detroit. It's a whole different story.
Of course, you
What
can't
do you
have
think?
five. I mean,
Yeah.
they have 5 turnovers
That's
earlier in the season and still won, but you can't do that in the playoffs.
Yeah.
It's not going to work in the playoffs.
Okay, so let me get
Absolutely.
because before we get into the Washington Philly pick, so let's hold those thoughts. Let me give you Washington and Detroit. Keep in mind,
Yeah. That's what we're
Washington. No, you were bleeding over into the other one. We had to bring you back.
no.
Hey, don't forget we got Richard Melton. We got Richard Melton.
I got.
I'm gonna be quick. Fred, hush
Go
up,
ahead.
Fred. Listen, Washington hung 45 points on Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
None of us thought that.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody thought
Nope.
they would hang 45 points in
Not at all.
Detroit. Number 2,
Not at all.
you
Mhm.
guys know Detroit. If you were in that offensive meeting, being an offensive coordinator, what would you tell your offensive unit Detroit was going to do defensively, particularly passing game? What would you tell them? What coverage would they be playing?
They're going to blitz.
I'm sorry.
first of all.
I didn't.
Thank you.
I didn't hear
there
that.
you go.
They're going to blitz. They're going to be some
And they're
zero
gonna play-
blitzes.
There you go.
They're gonna blitz
be some
Washington.
yeah.
Okay, here's why I'm saying.
Okay.
You know what they did, because I went back and looked. This is how they neutralized that blitz that Detroit was so known for. They threw the ball
Okay.
on first and second down consistently.
Yeah.
Consistently.
Mhm.
That's how they were able to hang 45 points on them. They neutralized
Which is
them.
not
That's why
a which
you
is
say
not a
all the
blitzing situation.
Exactly. And that's exactly
Mhm.
what they did. So, because I was wondering, I was like, how in the world they went in there and hung up 45? So I went and looked at play by play. They was throwing that ball on first and second down, man.
First down.
And so I got a lot of confidence in them because they have a lot of confidence in themselves, which we'll get into that when we do Washington Philly. But
Yeah.
that's
All
the
right.
point between that game. Go ahead.
All right. Here we go. Philly 28. The Rams 22. I was actually at this game and I watched every play. I absolutely watched every play of this game, and I was sitting in the stands freezing. But I wanted to go and just see Saquon and just see it, just see what would happen. And he put up over 200. I wasn't surprised in this game. As a matter of fact, a lot of people were talking about, oh, well, the Eagles they got off. They should have lost. Some kid came on and said if the weather bailed them out. I'm thinking it was probably snowing on both sides of the ball. So I'm like,
That's
how
not
the
what
weather?
we're talking about. That's not. But we'll get into. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. Finish.
But one thing, of course, where I think I'm kind of bleeding into what you possibly going to say is that when you look at the offense is not quite balanced as quote unquote it should be. But when I look at Jalen Hurts' numbers and when I see the objective of what the offense is and what the defense is, the offense is about taking number one, running the ball. I think that's obvious now. And they're about running the football, and if they have to pass, they'll pass. And they did what they needed to do, and from a defensive standpoint, uh, the Rams had the ball at the end of the game and could have went down and scored and to win, and they didn't. And I wasn't surprised. I thought it would be a bigger differential in terms of the score, but the Rams had it tight. And everybody was saying that, hey, I can't believe that the Rams kept it close. Well, you know what? The Rams got a pretty good quarterback, and we have to give him credit. And they got pretty good wide receivers as well, so we have to give them credit where credit is due. But they didn't pull through, of course.
Well, my surprise was that they didn't win the game. The Rams didn't win the game. The third quarter, after they got that safety, momentum kind of shifted a little bit after that
15, 17.
And I'm like, oh,
at that point, I think.
And then here's the weather part that people keep talking about. The doggone LA Rams got cold. You guys know how it is when you play those cold games and they keep calling these timeouts. You're sitting there like, man, here go another one. I just think the Rams, that hot chocolate done wore out on the sideline. They got cold. And
they got cold.
They got cold, man. But it was a good game. But I thought LA was going to pull it out after that safety. And Hurts was banged up too. Yeah, and he wasn't acting the same after that.
Well, he was banged up before he was banged up before the safety. I think that played into why he got tackled in the end zone because he couldn't move.
Couldn't move.
But you know what? That's what's been happening with Philly all year long. Yes, they got the ball back. I couldn't believe what the play calling was. And after when the Rams scored, went right down the field and scored, the Eagles got the ball back. All they had to do, and even Chris Collinsworth was saying it, this is going to be the Saquon Barkley show. They're going to run the ball, run timeout. They ran 3 plays, a running play to Barkley, a pass, he tried to bootleg out and got sacked for 12 yards, loss, and then another run. They only ran 13 seconds off the clock. Only 13 seconds were run off the clock on those 3 plays. That was it, and gave the ball back to Matthew Stafford. And then the defense, like they have been all year long, the defensive line, Jalen Carter showed up with a big sack. Then Jalen Carter showed up again with another pressure that caused that overthrow with the last play of the game. But you mentioned, Fred, yes, they are a running team. They run first. Saquon Barkley has established that. He's been phenomenal, just exceeding, again, all expectations. I said it at the beginning of the year before the season started that this year would be his best year ever. He's blown that up. He's just blown that up.
Yeah.
But even though Jalen is not throwing the ball as much as people would like him to throw the ball, Jalen's still he's still driving the machine. He's still driving the train.
He's managing
because that first touchdown going to the right, the long touchdown that Saquon Barkley had, there was a blitz coming. They had 8 in the box. But on the right side, there were the smaller guys. It was a safety, a smaller linebacker, and I believe
they did a heavy left.
Yes,
when they had the nose tackle,
and Jalen,
and he moved him. He moved him to his left and ran right.
Yes, he changed the play and had the play going right, and that's why it opened up so big. So Jalen is making the right calls. He's making the right adjustments. He's doing what he needs to do to be the conductor for that offense, to make sure they're in the right position, making the right turns, to get the ball in the right hands at the right time, whether it's throwing the ball, whether it's running the ball.
Yeah. All right, let's roll right into Buffalo. I know we pressed for a little time. Buffalo in Baltimore.
I think we got to bring Richard in, bro. We got to bring Richard in.
Oh, we want to bring Richard in now?
Yeah, Richard, come on and sign in, man. Come on, sign in, Richard.
Because Fred is all over.
He gonna run Richard right out of town. Richard,
we
show.
Well, we got Kansas City. Richard, he stays the whole time anyway. Roll up, Richard.
Irv, you've lost control of your show.
We're going. He does not have control if I'm hosting the show, Mike.
You know what? That's what I said too when he texted us today, Mike. I was like, dang.
The rap.
He's like, I haven't hosted in a while. I'm like, there's probably a reason for that.
We hosting? All right, I go host up. I'm gonna sign off right now.
We messing with you. Come on, Richard Melton. He hadn't come on. He hadn't come in.
Richard Melton. All right. Here we're gonna do. Let's talk a little bit about the team that I picked. And I'm gonna tell you something. I can be honest. Let me be honest. I was like, I'm not sure if Buffalo gonna win this game, but I think they will. And that's why I picked Buffalo.
Away from the camera, man.
I thought Lamar Jackson would really do it. What's wrong with it? Where's Richard Melton?
I gotta see through my bifocals first.
You got to away. Yeah, back away. Back away some more.
I hope.
Hey, I know you see me, Mr.
I hope
Richard, you got to back away from the camera, from your phone.
Back up, Richard.
Scoot down.
He got a cigar. Look at it. I really know this guy now, man. He got a cigar.
No, move to your left, Richard. Move to your left. To your left. Move to your left, Richard.
Look,
to your left. Everything you own. Now back up. There it is.
All right. There it is. Listen. There it is, Richard.
Listen. Okay, listen. This is
Wait, Richard, wait a minute. Take your phone and make it horizontal. You have your phone like this. Do it like this.
Yeah. All right.
There you go.
All right, that.
Oop, there it is.
There you go.
How about that?
Oh, there it is.
All right.
Yes, sir. What you got to say, Rich?
Yeah, I see you, Hicks.
All I'm trying to say is this is for Mr. Timpson and Mr. Dr. Irving Fryar. Yeah, talk about them Buffalo Bills. Talk about them.
Yes, sir.
I think this is
Buffalo. Tell about it, Rich.
This is Bill's Mafia, Mike.
This is the Mafia representation of Bill's Mafia.
You know what I want to say to you,
Rich?
And Fred. You guys did pick the Bills to win. Irvin and I picked the Ravens, and you guys pulled it out. So remember, you got to give credit where credit is due. But
let's go Buffalo.
Hey, here's the real deal.
Mm-hmm.
The problem with the Ravens is when they had that 2-point conversion, they should have ran Henry. That's the problem right there. Because you'd have been sitting there with an L, Richard, had they ran.
I would have gave Derrick Henry the ball.
Yes,
that's your number one duo, quarterback, running back in the league, so you say. And yet you stop giving him the ball. Thank you.
Sir.
Let's go, Buffalo.
But wait a minute. But Mike, you know what's interesting?
But wait a minute.
Go ahead.
The play worked. The play worked. He was open.
Yes.
He just didn't
catch
the
dropped the ball.
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
He dropped the ball.
But let's play percentages. Let's play percentages.
You got to run the ball.
Percentage is better and higher if you're going to run that doggone ball.
Yeah.
It's
Same
no
thing happened with Saquon
Seattle,
Barkley with the Eagles earlier. Yeah.
Seattle years ago when up in Seattle when they were supposed to give it to Beast Mode. Same thing.
Mike, let me say this. Mike. Mm-hmm. When we talk about, and Irv, I know you probably agree with me. When we talk about the individual that he threw that ball to, and the individual that they were going to run with, those percentages was right neck and neck. We talk about a tight end that don't drop nothing. He don't drop nothing, Mike. He dropped everything.
But you're throwing
Hicks, I see you, man.
You're throwing the ball.
The ball hit him in the chest, Mike. The ball hit him in the chest.
Nah, I'm gonna give that thing to the tank. I'm gonna give that thing to that tank running off tackle.
Mike, I'm gonna tell you something. They run that play 100 times. After this, he catch that ball 100 times. He catch it every time.
Well,
he just dropped that.
Well, I'm glad he didn't catch it this time. and hey, listen, I just want to tell all those that are still watching.
Yeah.
Go Bills. Kansas City in trouble.
Go Bills.
Y'all just got in by the hair of your chinny chin chin. That's it.
That's true.
Oh my God,
that's true.
Let's go ahead and talk. Let's go ahead and give our predictions.
Yes,
on that one,
we're gonna bleed into the next two games here. So we got at Philly for the NFC Championship. You know what, Richard? I'm gonna start with you. Who we got? Who you got? Washington and Philly.
Hicks, wait a minute, Richard. Hicks, lightly, y'all better stop clowning. Clowning, stop clowning. Go ahead, Richard.
Go ahead, Rich. Who we got, Rich?
So I feel is going to be a good game, and I believe that Washington defense is going to come in ready to roll. So I'm gonna pick the Eagles.
So you okay? Oh, I was just about to say you about to get cut off.
Hey, Richard, can you see yourself on the screen on your phone? I need you to back up just a little bit because I'm gonna cut some of this up. I need to get your whole face and stuff in there when I'm cutting this up. Can you back up just a little bit? Because I can't see the top of your head. There you go.
There you go.
Yep. You're good.
So I'm gonna give my quick pick. Well, I ain't gonna say a quick pick. I got a little bit to say, of course. I always have something to say.
You think?
I used to be an introvert, man. I'm just trying to make up for it.
You ain't never been no introvert. What the heck
yes,
you talking
trust
about?
me. Boy, I'm from Gunnison, Mississippi. Trust me.
Gunnison.
Trust me. I give this game to Philly because I think Washington has kind of put themselves on stage where they have to perform now. I think you talked about a little bit. I think Hurts will manage this game the way it needs to be managed. He won't have 300 yards passing. He'll do exactly what needs to be done to get this done. And I just think Washington understands and knows that they are not the better team, but they're going to have to come and look for opportunities to win this game. And if Philly does not give them opportunities, they won't have opportunities to win it. When I look at the first game with Philly kind of dominated. They dominated late, but they won the game. When I look at the second game, although Philly lost that game, they were one catch from winning the game.
Mm-hmm.
And of course Jalen.
Yeah, Devontae Smith. If he catches the ball,
Devontae Smith catch that ball, the game's over.
The game's over.
So what do you?
I'll tell you.
He must have forgot her. So of course you give the ball back to Daniels, who is dynamic, I must say, who is, in my opinion, and I'm gonna shut up after this. In my opinion, and guys, please correct me if I'm wrong. At this point, he is the best rookie quarterback I've seen in the league thus far.
Can I give you some stats on him real quick?
Please.
They're saying he's the best rookie quarterback ever. He set the record for completion percentage for a rookie, which is 69%. His TD, touchdown interception ratio, 25 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. He's rushed for almost 900 yards. I think he's 2 or 3 yards short of 900 yards. Record 12-5. Win and losses, high efficient. Since December, he's 7-0, which is the most in the NFL since December. He's first in QB rating when pressured or blitzed on 3rd down or 4th down. That's the best in the NFL since December. In the red zone, he's got, since December, 0 turnovers, and he's accounted for running and passing 15 touchdowns. But in order for Washington to win this game against the Eagles, he has to continue to play like that.
And so their offensive line has to hold up.
What you say, Mike? I'm picking the Eagles.
My pick is Philly.
Go Birds.
I'm picking the Eagles. Yeah.
Go Birds, bro.
Okay. Go ahead. Mike, who you got, Mike? Oh, I think Mike is going to. Mike, I'm listening. Mike,
you going sideways again, Mike?
No. Hold on.
What? Richard, you still there?
You ready?
I'm right here.
Yeah.
Okay. Richard just listening.
Richard, wait till we get to Buffalo. So wait, first, I think we need to let our listeners know why Richard is sitting there is because Richard somewhat won a contest that Fred kind of put last week, that if the Buffalo Bills won, he will be on the show. So Richard is in the house. Richard is in the house as one of our guests.
Thank you.
So people who watched the show last week knew that the Rich was going to be here, though. Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, but there's people who watching this week who didn't watch the show last week. James Hicks is watching.
Stop it, Irv. Come on, let's go. Stop it, Irv. Come on.
All right. So here's the deal. I told you guys earlier, Washington put up 45 points last week. You got to take that into account.
You're not getting ready to pick Washington.
Wait a minute. First of all, I already know
leave him alone.
Philly Birds. Yeah, let me finish because I know y'all can't pick against Philly. They'll run y'all out of town.
Yes. Oh, yes, we can.
Right.
I don't live in
Here's
Philly.
the last time they played, Jaden Daniels threw 5 touchdowns. 5. Don't you think his confidence has grown now? So you got in themselves. They can score points. Here's why the problem is. They're going to put points on the board. Philly is going to have to get out of that run, and they're going to have to throw the ball. So Jalen Hurts,
Okay.
can you stand the rain? We're going to find out.
It won't be raining. But go ahead. Who's going to win the game?
Number 1 defense in the league.
With the Commander. So is Detroit. Got a pretty good defense too.
Detroit ain't got no good defense.
I'm going with Washington. I'm gonna ride the Washington train. All y'all Philly fanatics. I'm gonna ride Washington and Jaden Daniels.
Okay.
How about that?
All right. We got a roll. We got KC and Buffalo. Richard, I think you got KC, right?
Yeah, okay. You know, I got the fact that we've been doing this for 5 years. And I got a question for y'all before it's all over of why prima donnas don't want to go to Buffalo. You know, top free agents, and I got a question for y'all. What is it with you prima donna football players that don't want to go to Buffalo? However, that's okay.
Richard, I go to Buffalo tomorrow. I go to Buffalo tomorrow, Richard.
I'm talking about playing for the squad. However,
I'm gonna tell you why. I'm gonna tell you why. It's too cold, and y'all ain't got no black barbershops. And it's too cold.